The moment Shohei Ohtani reacted in pain, the entire stadium felt it before anyone even understood what had happened. It wasn't just a normal hit-by-pitch. It wasn't just a routine collision with the game. Something about the way he grabbed his hand, the way his body language changed instantly, sent a shockwave through the crowd. And within seconds, every camera in the stadium locked onto him. Every fan stood up. Every dugout leaned forward. Because when Shohei Ohtani gets hurt, it doesn't feel like a normal injury. It feels like the entire baseball world is holding its breath at the same time. The Dodgers had entered Game 2 against the Rockies with confidence. The energy was strong, the expectations were high, and once again, all eyes were on Ohtani. He was the center of everything. Every pitch thrown, every swing taken, every defensive adjustment made by the Rockies revolved around him in some way. That's what happens when a player becomes more than just a star. He becomes the axis the game spins around. But early in the game, something felt slightly off. Pitchers were working him inside more aggressively than usual. The crowd noticed it. The broadcasters noticed it. Even Ohtani seemed to adjust his stance more carefully than usual. There was a quiet tension building, the kind that doesn't explode immediately but slowly rises until it reaches a breaking point. Then came the pitch that changed everything. It looked ordinary at first. Just another fastball coming in toward the plate. But the location was wrong. The timing was wrong. And the result was immediate. The ball struck Ohtani's hand with a sharp impact that echoed louder than it should have. The sound itself made fans wince. It wasn't the kind of contact that gets brushed off easily. It was the kind that immediately signals concern. Ohtani stepped back at first, trying to shake it off. That's what elite athletes do. They try to continue. They try to push through. But within seconds, the pain became visible. His expression tightened. His grip changed. And then came the moment that silenced the entire stadium. He began flexing his hand repeatedly, as if trying to understand the severity of what had just happened. The Dodgers' dugout reacted instantly. Coaches stood up. Trainers rushed out. Teammates leaned over the railing with concern written all over their faces. And on the other side, the Rockies' dugout froze. Nobody celebrated. Nobody argued. Everyone understood that this wasn't just another pitch anymore. This was a moment that could define not only the game, but possibly the season. As Ohtani walked slowly toward first base, the crowd erupted into a mix of cheers and anxious murmurs. Some fans clapped in support. Others stayed silent, watching every step he took. But what stood out most was the uncertainty. Nobody knew how bad it was. Nobody knew if he would stay in the game. Nobody knew if the Dodgers were about to lose their biggest weapon. And then the cameras caught Dave Roberts. The Dodgers manager wasn't yelling. He wasn't pacing wildly. He was staring. Frozen. Focused entirely on Ohtani. But the emotion in his face was unmistakable. It wasn't just a concern. It was frustration building underneath the surface. The kind of frustration that comes from watching something you can't control unfold in front of you. And as the trainers continued checking Ohtani's hand, Roberts' reaction grew more intense with every passing second. Inside the stadium, tension spread quickly. Fans began searching for answers on their phones. Analysts on broadcast began replaying the pitch from every angle. Some said it was accidental. Others questioned the inside placement. But nobody could ignore the result. Ohtani's hand was now the center of every conversation in baseball. He eventually stayed in the game, but something had clearly changed. His swing looked slightly adjusted. His grip was carefully monitored. Every movement became a test of pain tolerance. And still, he continued. That alone became part of the story. Because most players in that situation would walk off immediately. But Ohtani remained on the field, trying to compete through discomfort that only he could truly feel. The Rockies pitcher, meanwhile, found himself under immediate scrutiny. Every pitch after that moment was met with louder reactions from the crowd. Every inside throw created tension. Even when there was no intention, perception had already taken over. The stadium had chosen its narrative, and it was not in favor of the Rockies. As the innings continued, the Dodgers' energy shifted. It wasn't panic, it was determination. Teams often respond to moments like this in one of two ways. They collapse under pressure or they rally together. The Dodgers chose the second. Every defensive play became sharper. Every at-bat became more aggressive. The team's body language made it clear they were not going to let this moment define them negatively. But the focus never truly left Ohtani. Even when he wasn't at bat, cameras found him. Even when the ball was in play, broadcasters discussed him. Even when other players made highlights, the conversation returned to his hand. Because injuries to superstars are never just medical updates. They are emotional events for the entire sport. By the middle innings, reports began circulating that Ohtani would undergo further evaluation after the game. That's when the anxiety truly escalated. The phrase, MRI results pending, immediately changed the tone of the entire broadcast. Fans knew what that meant. It meant uncertainty. It meant waiting. It meant fear. Inside the Dodgers dugout, teammates kept checking on him. Some tried to lighten the mood. Others remained quiet, focused on the game. But the underlying emotion was clear. Nobody wanted to imagine a scenario where Ohtani was seriously hurt. Not just because of what he means to the team, but because of what he represents to the sport itself. As the game moved toward its conclusion, Ohtani's presence remained the central storyline. Every time he moved his hand, cameras zoomed in. Every time he swung, the reaction was analyzed. Every moment felt heavier than the score itself. When the final out was recorded, the baseball result almost felt secondary. The real story was waiting off the field, inside the medical room, where the fate of Ohtani's condition would soon be revealed. Hours later, the first reports began to emerge. The MRI had been completed. The Dodgers medical staff had reviewed the results. And while official statements were carefully worded, the reaction around the league made one thing clear: the injury was serious enough to concern everyone involved. Social media exploded instantly. Fans across the world reacted in real time. Dodgers supporters feared the worst. Neutral fans hoped for the best. Analysts began breaking down what a potential absence could mean for the team's playoff hopes. And the baseball world, once again, found itself revolving around a single name: Shohei Ohtani. Back at the stadium, Dave Roberts finally addressed reporters. His expression was calm, but underneath it was clear tension. He confirmed that Ohtani had experienced discomfort and would continue to be evaluated. His words were measured, but the concern behind them was impossible to hide. Because for a manager, there are moments when strategy stops mattering. When wins and losses take a back seat. And this was one of those moments. The questions continued. How long would he be out? Was it structural damage? Would he need rest? Would it affect his hitting? Would it affect his pitching? Roberts didn't provide dramatic answers. He didn't speculate. But he didn't need to. The uncertainty itself was enough to shake the baseball world. Meanwhile, players across the league reacted as well. Some expressed concern publicly. Others remained silent but clearly attentive. Because Ohtani is not just a teammate or opponent. He is a global figure whose presence elevates every game he is part of. Inside the Dodgers clubhouse, the mood was quiet. Not defeated, but uneasy. Players understood that injuries are part of baseball. But they also understood that some injuries carry more weight than others. And this was one of those moments. As the night finally settled, one image lingered above everything else. Ohtani standing in the batter's box earlier in the game, flexing his hand after the pitch, trying to continue despite the pain. That image traveled across every sports network, every social media platform, every news outlet. Because it represented something bigger than a single injury. It represented resilience. It represented risk. And it represented how quickly everything can change in a sport where one pitch can alter not just a game, but an entire season. The MRI results may have shocked fans, but what shocked them even more was the realization that even Shohei Ohtani, arguably the most complete player in baseball history, is still vulnerable to the unpredictable nature of the game. And as discussions continue, one question now lingers over the Dodgers, over the Rockies, and over the entire baseball world.